Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Of Mice and
Of Wolves. Ow!
there you go. This is the Comics Workshop show, and there it is. Rob, you got anything else to add to that?
Yeah, no, this is just basically our way of giving back to the community and trying to help other indie creators work through some issues that they might not be able to think of the answers and how to move forward on these topics. So we are going to jump into it now and start helping some creators.
All right, cool. Now, on to our first guest. How you doing, Deece?
Good. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome. So introduce yourself and tell the good people what you do, where you're from, and where they can find you.
Yeah, my name is Deece Casillas. I am a professional stand-up comedian and writer. I am originally from Long Beach, California, East Side, Long Beach. Now living in San Antonio, Texas. So, I've got a comic book coming out in late November, early December that I'm working on. So that's the project we got.
Very nice. Very nice.
Next guest.
Hey, Sean.
What's up? Hey, my name's Sean. I am the writer for The Fog Within so far on issue 3, and we are live on Kickstarter. 17 days left, I think, and I am in Virginia.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Chris Brimmage. I'm the author of the Multiverse Askew trilogy, which is a comedic science fiction series of prose novels, as well as the author of Mandrill PI, which is takes the form of both comics and prose. And I am currently residing in California.
Cool. Rob, you want to start off?
Yeah, why don't let's start with Deece. So we'll just kind of go this way. Yeah, I'm reversed. Let's go clockwise.
There you go.
So Deece, go ahead. What is your topic, sir, and how can we help you?
Yeah, so I think my biggest thing I've been trying to figure out is how's everyone handling the marketing when it comes to these comic books? Because the development and the production side it happens when, not seamlessly, but a little easier, at least for what we're doing on my end here. But then the more it gets to the marketing, it seems like there's so much opportunity. It's like anything, with the internet, we've got a lot of opportunity, but also there's so much out there. How do you get your stuff seen? What have you found best? We're doing a Kickstarter campaign for ours, and even little things, you get into the minutia of Kickstarter says, don't put anything with any badging or words on your cover photo. You get more exposure on Kickstarter, but then all the ones I see on the page have badging and logos. And I'm like, how, what are all this little nuance of stuff? So, and then it, getting exposure to the Kickstarter and kind of all that.
Okay. So does anyone have any clarification questions that they would like to ask? Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. What are you currently doing to get exposure to the?
Well, right now, I'm kind of in a decent position where, as a longtime stand-up comedian, I've got a large network of followers, as well as email lists I've collected from across the country for the last 10 years. Doing a lot of podcasts. I guest on a lot of podcasts that are all kinds of different shows. So being able to reach out to a lot of different people. Luckily, again, with kind of just what I do with comedy, I'm already networking. We're just getting it to a lot of different types of people, not just your comic book base. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The Kickstarter isn't live yet. Once the Kickstarter goes live, we'll be sending out direct emails, messages, stuff like that to get it. But it's one of those things, like, I don't know how much, what else you guys do besides this, but in the arts, and it seems this way in everything, creators are almost always the worst at supporting other creators, and like I see there's all these Facebook pages with independent creators and stuff, and you go in there and, there's 12,000 members and everyone's shared something, but no one's liked anything. And, Yeah. So what's everyone's game plan that they found effective as far as their campaign, leading up to the release of the campaign, and then during the campaign for a successful one?
Sean, any questions?
No, he pretty much nailed it on the head. That was actually pretty good so far.
Okay.
Marketing-wise.
JD, do you have anything before I jump in?
I mean, you already said you got a mailing list. You have a website, I would imagine.
Yes.
All right. So, I mean, yeah. Rob, jump in.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, fair enough. All right, so have you started to sprinkle this out anywhere in your email list? On obviously you're doing the podcast now, so you're kind of like ramping that up. But have you been, showing like line art, inked art, colors? Like, have you been showing the process? Have you been going? Have you been sharing the process of the story, how you came up with it? Have you been, if you have, where have you done that? Have you done that socially? Have you done that through your email?
Mm-hmm.
So where all have you been doing? So that way, when we're kind of like covering stuff, we're not saying stuff that you've already done.
Yeah. So mostly right now it's been through social media, not on any of the email lists or anything like that. We're going to wait till the Kickstarter is live to try to just kind of, I guess, impulse grab a lot of people. But a lot of those people also follow me on social media. So, they're aware of it. We've got a fan page for the book, which is on Instagram and Facebook. So we're posting at least once a day, some limited panels, or at least panels without any of the dialogue, just to not give as much away. We've got a trailer that we cut that looks pretty good. I think we've done that. We've done some early sketches. I've released some early sketches. I've released some videos of just me talking about the book, trying to mix up the marketing, so it's not just, hey, here's another Instagram formatted picture of XYZ related to the book,
So you said you've been doing that on Instagram, right?
Instagram and Facebook.
So Instagram and Facebook, do you feel those are your more prominent platforms, or do you feel comfortable doing anything else? Or
I really don't use anything else, to be honest with you.
So
I have Twitter, but I really never use it.
Okay.
And anything else, I just don't use.
Okay, so that's definitely a good start, having the platforms that you're comfortable using. I would also say, think about it this way: when a movie comes out, they start out with small trailers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they work up to the bigger trailers, and you see it more often, right till you get to the actual, release.
Yeah.
You kind of want to treat that similar with your email list. I wouldn't just cold call them right away, and expect them to do an impulse buy.
Mm-hmm.
One big thing that you kind of want to do is you want to be emailing. I mean, I'm sure you're probably emailing often. But I would say do the same thing like these movie lead ups are, right? You want to have just sprinkle things along, and the closer you get, the more you show, the more you share. You want to get as much attention. You want to get as much people excited about this up front. So on day one, they jump in instead of being like, oh, what's this? Oh, I'll check this out later. You know what I mean? Because you basically want to ramp it up, and just once you hit live, you are going full gear. You are nonstop. So you want to get them prepared for that as you're ramping that up. Plus, you want to get them excited. You want them ready you want them to know. You want to do some small things here and there. If they're not following you social, you want to, you want to say, hey, go to my comic book fan page or whatever. Go to my, do you want to try and do that, and to get them to do stuff without spending money? For when that time comes, when they actually go to the Kickstarter, that's when you're like, boom, now it's like being a friend. Talking to your friends.
Yeah.
Don't be the friend asking favors only when you talk to your friends. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's kind of like what you have to kind of a mentality you got to think about it when you're ramping this up. Before, so I'm sure I have plenty more to talk about. Let's move on to others. Sean, do you have anything you'd like to kind of add to that or throw in there? Any suggestions of what you do?
I'm still newer, so I'm more basic. He has more stuff than I've done marketing wise with the fan base and everything. That's great. The pre-launch page, do you have a pre-launch page already started, or do you have a plan
Yeah.
when you have the pre-launch? Okay.
Pre-launch page has been up for a couple weeks, so I've been I've been posting regularly again. Like honestly, my biggest platform is Facebook. That's where I get the most retention on stuff, and so I kind of use that as like almost a de facto email list in a lot of ways too. Whereas like a lot of people who are there follow me are also on my email list. So like I'm getting them to follow the pages, having them kind of follow the Kickstarter launch page before it goes live, stuff like that.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Chris,
do you have like an ashcan or a preview or anything of the comic that you offer people? I don't know, as like a reader magnet to sign up for your email list. You might not need it because you have your stand up, but just something that, like what Rob would, to give them before you're asking them for money.
Yeah, so the Kickstarter has a 5-page preview on it. When it goes live, it will. Ahead of time, I haven't done that. I mean, I've been sending it out to people for promo stuff, not really for jump on the Kickstarter or anything. We've like I said, we've released some panels. I haven't given any small pages or anything like that, any type of primer type issue out to people yet.
Yeah,
okay, no worries. I'm just checking. Oh, go for it. Go.
No, go ahead. You might
just gonna say
what I was going to say.
No worries. Like even if you have it on your page, the 5-page preview, like it might not hurt to just package it up and put it somewhere so that when you're sending out your, like what Rob was saying, is you're teasing it out in your mailing list. It's something that you can say, hey, click here and you can check out the first 5 pages. And then they've already seen some of the work without relying on jumping over to your page once you launch it live.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I'll think about it as like being like in a comic shop. People can flip through the pages and see if they like it. For my first issue of Snowpaw, I put out the first 9 pages. Like in a little ash can that basically left at a little bit of a cliffhanger, and I handed that. I was sending that out with my email. Like, so I have a sign up for my people get a free digital copy of my Nightwolf issue 1, and I got the 9-page ash can of Snowpaw. That was probably that launch was my best, my highest funded, not highest funding, but most backed with most backers. Mm-hmm. It was almost 800 backers. So that's something like, like you said, giving them that, like something that they could see and be like, oh, I really like this. I want to see the rest of it. That's a good way of, telling if it's a good story and people are interested in it. And, and 2, like knowing that they're going to come back and they want that more. You want to leave them with something just enough to taste to want more.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. I'm sure there's an easy way to package up the promo and get it out there to people in a way that, low barrier.
JD, anything?
Are we in the answer stage, or are we still asking questions?
We're still we started answering. Yeah.
All right. So I one of the things I find fascinating is that you're a stand-up comedian. You're a very brave man. But I'm pretty sure I don't know if you've considered it. I don't know how you handle it, but I know you come in contact with a lot of people, obviously on a regular. One of the things I do at conventions, right, is I take trading cards, and I'll usually have a QR code on it, and those will lead to like preview pages where people can download, like you have your 5 pages. People can sign up for newsletters, all sorts of that type of thing. So that might be something you might want to interest. And the reason I usually do trading cards is because if you do a 6x9 flyer, people throw those away.
Yeah.
Trading cards are meant to be collected, and there's still a certain amount of people that like to collect them, so that's usually why I use trading cards, because people will take them, oh, that's cool. And even if you just leave them on the table, they're going to come by and just take them, especially if you put a nice, cool looking art on the cover, on the front of it, and on the back, you just have a QR code, maybe a few words about the product, and then, they'll be like, oh, okay, cool. And then they'll go check it out. So
another one you could use is bookmarks. Like our friend Henri Kampman, he has a book called Ishin Shin, which is basically a martial arts style book where there's a sword on the bookmark, and when he's at cons, he will like come up to somebody and like just kind of pretend to like chop at him, like and hand them the card, and then Brett breaks into like the whole conversation, and like he's a master at it. Like, stuff like that, like JD's card or bookmark or something that people can easily put in their pocket, purse, what have you.
Yeah,
good idea.
Yeah, I do the bookmark at cons and stuff. And basically every Kickstarter I put out, I do another, like a bookmark that's pertinent to that Kickstarter with like the image of the cover on the front, and then the back, it's Mandrill PI, the logo, and then a QR code to my link tree. And then that way I can update the links kind of at will. And then no matter what Kickstarter they got it for, it'll work for whatever one's coming up.
Makes sense.
So for your email list, I guess I have another question now. I'm thinking about it. Why? So are you going to segment out like the people who are interested in this comic from your list? Are you going to segment them out of that, or are you just going to keep kind of like sending it to everybody, whether they're not interested or not?
Quantify that a little more for me. You mean after the initial email? Or?
So I would say like thinking about it this way. You have let's say, I don't know how many you have in your email list, but let's say you have a lot already and they're primarily interested in your comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might behoove you as you're doing this sprinkling to kind of start cultivating a separate list of people who are interested, and then only hit the main audience maybe a few times during the campaign, and then kind of like really hit the people who were interested in that separate kind of like filtered email list.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's we will keep track of what kind of response we're getting from people off those lists, and that way when the next campaign comes and stuff like that, it's easier to direct market instead of just less work when you're giving it to doing the directly marketing to the people who are already more interested. That would kind of come as just come as it comes. Trying to figure out, just delineate who's who and who's involved, who's more involved and who's not.
What are you using for your email platform?
What the hell is the name of that program?
Is it MailChimp?
No, it's not MailChimp. It's
Constant Contact?
I'd have to ask my girlfriend. She manages it for me.
Well, most platforms have like a filtering system. Or what they call like an automated, when they're tracking what they're doing, what they're clicking.
Yeah.
So there's probably a way that you could always set up like something in your email. If they click this, tag them with this. So we could be like, hey, they clicked the link because they're interested. Now tag them as comic book.
Yeah.
So you could filter them out as comic book people within your list. So that way you can have, a nice segmented list. That's a good tool to use for retail, for marketing, any kind of stuff like that is, always having a good segmentation. Because a lot of us used Backer Kit Launch, and I like to keep my Kickstarter backers segmented out of my regular MailChimp list so I can hit the Backer Kit Launch people, because that's everybody who's ever backed one of my Kickstarter campaigns.
Yeah.
So that there's different ways to do it, but it's good to like hit the people who are interested, and then kind of like give the cold audience a few things to kind of warm them up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you definitely want to, like, when you're hitting cold audiences, it's harder for them to convert. You want to warm people up as much as possible, and that's the ones that are going to come and back you.
Yeah, definitely.
But anybody else have any social tips or anything else? I know right now he's probably not going to be at tabling at cons yet, but he could go to cons.
True.
You apologies, you already said it, but what's the genre of your comic? Is it comedic at all?
No, not really. It's a neo-noir crime thriller.
Well, that's right up your alley there, Chris.
I'm excited to check that out.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go for it. I was going to ask a follow-up question.
Oh, go. Yeah. Well, I was just saying we are actually working on getting into cons already. Where the plan is I'm booking my comedy tour around conventions. So I just do conventions during the day and comedy shows at night in those areas. So I'm just working at booking my shows in the area in the convention so I can double down. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Northern California, so I can see a show.
was supposed to be there in October, but I got a festival I'm doing in Seattle, so I canceled it. I'll be there soon though. Sorry, Chris.
No worries.
You have to answer.
How you're like, what's your short, like 1 to 2 sentence pitch for your comic, and how are you translating that into your pitches on social?
Yeah, so it's kind of a sorry, let me pull this up here. The basically the short pitch is it's suicide by vigilantism. Stan is a loser with nothing to live for, so he decides to go out with a bang, literally. He's soon caught between selfishly wanting to die in a neighborhood that desperately needs him to live. And then, it's just give him a little more info. It's just a story. It's really a story about like the fractured psyche of us involved in everyone in the depths we sink to when life has lost all meaning. So it's really not to kind of addendum the vigilante thing. It's really more about an individual and loss than it is about the any type of vigilantism, really. I think luckily the art, the coloring, and the tone, I think helps convey it a lot too. But I definitely have been heavily nailing down like the neo-noir crime thriller as we go across with it, and then trying to also let people know that it's more than what it looks like on the surface. When you on the surface, it looks like it's not just that. It is really more involved about this guy than it is about any type of vigilantism. I don't know if that answers
the human aspect of it.
Yeah,
that did answer my question. So thanks. So the other thing I would recommend as well is just like, how can you condense your pitch down into just essentially a few words that look good in copy with your image, so that people can just see it and understand it in three seconds or less. And partially the reason I'm suggesting this is like, when you think about, like I work in the spirit, I manage brands in the spirits industry for my day job. And like part of what you do, even with brands that have millions of dollars of budget, is you're trying to condense your message down to one clear and consistent message. And you repeat that over and over again, no matter where you're showing up. And so that would be another thing that I would recommend is like, as you're posting images, if there's like one quick snippet of copy that you can have attached to it, whether it's in the title or, it doesn't have to be in the image, but just something that goes together really easily, succinctly, and like really gets the point across. And then just don't worry about reinventing the wheel every time you talk to somebody. Just like keep hammering home that message, so after they see it a few times, then they'll start to recall it, so then they'll be more likely to convert later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
See, I knew I agreed to do this show with Rob for a reason. I'm learning so much.
I mean, it's good for everybody, right? These things are very helpful. All right. So does anybody have anything else for Deece?
The only other thing I could tell you, Deece, is that as you go a little bit further along in your career, right, doing comics, you might want to, and this has nothing to do with your question, but so yeah, sorry, Rob. But I'm telling you though, if you may be able to approach a few convention organizers, and if you could do a routine for them, they might be willing to give you a table for free.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I've had that thought, and I would definitely pitch that. I mean, I did to one convention about they declined, but I said I'd do a show, whether it's privately for the attendee, like the whoever owns it, or the whoever's tabling, whoever, some private event. But yeah, I definitely think I can tie it together somehow with that to offer that to people as kind of a perk. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've been at least been able to offset the costs of the cons we're looking at by I can, just book shows in those areas, and that can, then it kind of at least pays for itself, or it's not out of pocket,
Yeah. And that's something too, like you can do as you're getting, once you have the book, once you as you're building up that reputation, eventually you'll be like, hey, I have this book. I need a table. And the more you do, once you get one, then you can say, hey, I did it here.
Yeah.
And then it kind of grows and builds from there.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It seems like a no-brainer. Like someone will bite. And again, whether it's just a private event for certain people, the exclusive guests, whoever they want to invite, however they want to do it.
And even if they don't end up biting on the shows, you could pitch like panels that are themed around like comedy and comics, then moderating the panels and stuff would be another way to approach it too.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I never even thought of that. Yeah, some sort of crossover synergy between the two and how that can work. Yeah, there's probably something there.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Back to our regularly scheduled program.
I mean, that actually kind of worked towards it too. It was just a future marketing tactic. But no, I mean, honestly, like Deece, I think you were steps way ahead of other people who are just starting out without an email list. I mean, you already have an audience to kind of pull from, and if they like everything you do, they're going to come no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So like I said, you've got a good base. You just gotta work on the tactics.
Right on. We're working on it.
Yeah, just take some of these ideas and apply them. See what happens. Yeah. All right. So let's move on. So Sean, you are in the clockwise next.
Yeah. So my question is, I've been doing this for a year now. So I have 3 issues. So I'm building that audience. It's slowly but surely building. Each campaign is getting better. But one thing that hasn't really changed is retailers on the Kickstarter or just outside of the Kickstarter, just when I'm not online. So I was trying to see what's the best route to get reach retailers to buy in on the Kickstarter and to do the outside, I guess.
Okay. Anyone have any clarification questions?
So that you're actually trying to get like retailers to buy X amount of books in advance, essentially. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, on the Kickstarter or just after I have them in print, just shipping them to them directly. And when I'm talking about retailers, I mean like the LCSs.
Yeah.
Just anywhere, yeah.
So even not necessarily just having them support the Kickstarter to get funds in, but also say independently the Kickstarter is successful, you want to be able to get your book, just trying to find ways to get books into the LCS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just more eyes on it in general. Yeah. Whether I know like doing it that way, I'm not going to really make money on it, but I just wanted more people to see it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It gets it out there to get the money later.
Yeah.
Do you have a independent comics retailer friendly list?
Sort of. So there is one Facebook group that one of my indie friends put me on, and they had like a list on there and of people you can reach out to. I did like a MailChimp thing on my first book, and I took a lot of time trying to push it out there, but it was also my first book ever, so it's not like people are really going to bite. And I have 2 that I've found over this year that will back it and that will buy it in general. In my area, I have 6 that are close by, and I found any of them that I went into personally, then they immediately either did wholesale or consignment right when I was there. But I can't get to anybody further than that, really. So, yeah, that's about what I've done so far.
Chris, you have any questions?
My question was going to be around what he's done so far to get in, and he already answered.
All right, so how many local comic book shops do you have within a driving distance?
Yeah, so we're on a peninsula, so the ones that I'm near is about 6. I could go a little further, about 45 minutes to an hour, and probably hit another 8 or so.
Okay.
It's just a matter of getting there.
Yeah, that's definitely it. So what I started to do, because I after my first failed Kickstarter, I just started putting the book out myself, going to cons, and then driving to local LCSs, and basically kind of like giving them like you would, going to the shop, giving them a deal, giving them the pitch, and then kind of work that relationship out, figure out how they do it, whether it's consignment or upfront or whatever, whether they're, make sure for sure that they're comfortable, with doing indie stuff. Cause not all, some of them, they're not all of them are. Right. But you definitely want to, before you make that trip, kind of give them a call, find out, and say, hey, I'm going to come up and see you. Making that introduction, being friendly to them, that's a good way to get your stuff in there. And then from there, you kind of have to give them the tools to be able to sell it, make that pitch something that's easy for them to also say, because if people, and make sure your cover is also going to be, that's what's going to sell you in an LCS, right? Yeah. They're not going to, if your first, let's say you take your first book in there and it doesn't sell, it just sits there, then you're probably not going to get issue 2 in there. So that's making sure you have your best cover front for them to be able to put that out there so people can look at that and say, oh, what's this? Let me check that out. Yeah. Like kind of giving them the tools. And then once you have that in your local, you can use that for you get testimonials, you get reviews from them, you get pictures of them on the shelves. Okay. Then you put it in the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
they are on the shelves at other shops, and if they're doing well and you have those reviews, then other shops will come and buy your catch-up tiers or whatever, or so then you can do that then with the email list. You can use the same reviews, put them in that email list, send them to that list that you have of friendlies, and say, hey, look, I have them on all these shelves on this, I'd love to get them in yours, and try and personalize that. Like if you're using MailChimp, there's a way to personalize stuff. So try and make it personal as much as possible so that you're speaking to them and not just them as a whole.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Chris, you have anything?
I have a lot less experience pitching my stuff to local comic shops. So I'm just taking some notes so I can learn.
All right. What's funny is I have another show that I do where I just started interviewing retailers. And the last one, this particular retailer told us, he says, one of the things you want to do is actually call. You want to make that human contact with that retailer, right? Even if it's just for a couple of minutes. And never call on a Wednesday.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Never call on a Wednesday. Tuesday is iffy.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Thursday, yeah.
Right. Thursday, Friday, Monday, sometimes the weekend's a little iffy too, but, you can usually call on those other days. But, try to make that human contact, say, hey, this is who I am, blah, blah, blah. And then ask them if you could send them an email. And then you can send them a preview. And that's what the retailer was walking us through. So, okay, and I found that, really interesting. So you might want to try something like that.
Yeah, making that again, it's just like trying to sell to the to the people out there. You want to make sure you want to make that friendship, that connection, and then you ask that you want to have that, because again, if you're just that guy that's asking for favors every time you see your friends, eventually they're gonna be like, oh God, here he's coming.
Ignore that guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Delete.
Yep. Cool.
Does anybody else have anything else? I know this was kind of a quick one.
Have you kind of echoing what JD said a little bit, but the calling places, I mean, you've got 6 places near you, another 8 semi near you, but I mean, you could call any LCS in the country, and I mean, really just pick, I mean, it's just a numbers game. I mean, I own my own production company. We book shows across the country, and it's just, I mean, literally I'll call just 30 places in a row, and it's if I do that every day, I book a lot of shows, and it's, some people don't answer, some aren't available. You call back later, but it's just strictly a numbers game. So, I mean, if you called 30, just pick a city. Where did you say you're at?
So I'm in Virginia.
In Virginia. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you just start picking cities closer to you and then just start going out. I mean, you can go, call anywhere and just start hitting pick San Antonio, Texas, call the comic book stores and mail them something or email them something. And then, you can end up in another region, and that can be a huge thing for you. Especially about like these guys are talking about, if you can develop some sort of graphic or map or network that shows where you're at, be like, we're retailers in 8 states. Like, that sounds good all of a sudden, have you talked to any of your local retailers about doing like some sort of promotional signing or something at your, seeing if you can go in and do like a day there?
Yeah, so hopefully we're going to do one in about a month or so. The first time I went into my local retailers was when I had issue 2 in print, which was in June.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go with just issue 1, be the one-time wonder type thing.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't want to do it because it's, I wouldn't keep on going. But yeah, I just started doing that. And hopefully I'll get more of a day or a signing or whatever.
Yeah, you definitely want to do it on events like Martin said, or Marvin, sorry. You definitely want to do it like with events though, because if you go in there by yourself, you're not bringing your own people necessarily. I mean, you probably could, but that's not doing you much good. Right. Like local, like for in May, Free Comic Book Day. Right. I go to my local comic shop all the time, and I set up for a couple hours, and I do free signings and sell a bunch of books there, because that audience is already they're already coming in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, so you don't need to draw anybody. You just have to be like, hey, if you don't mind me having a space and setting up at the shop on Free Comic Book Day, that'd be great. Or local comic book shop day or whatever, kind of like celebratory day that's already bringing people in.
Yeah. Yeah, or maybe kind of you can even create an event, or I don't know if you know any other independent creators in your area. But one thing I've done in some areas I'm going to down the road is teaming up with other local creators I know in those areas and doing our own events. Then it kind of be, we've got comic book shops that are going to promote like hey, independent, like local creator, independent creator day. So, and it's just getting in there and it's pitching it to an LCS. I mean, there's the trope of the crankety old LCS owner, which we all know, but we also all know the super dope, like, very amicable guy who wants to help everyone, comic book owner, shop owner. So, find the ones you have a good relationship with and just be like, hey, we're trying to do this. Would you mind if yes, no cost to you guys. We'll set up an event page on Facebook, do some promotion in local groups. We'll give you some flyers if you give them to customers over the next month. And then hopefully we'll, maybe get some people in here, show off some local talent, do some sort of, whether they would, or maybe you guys can pool money to put together like I know one thing we're looking at doing for some conventions is getting some decent slabs of desirable comic books, even like something that's like, $80, $100 value, fair market value. And, if you buy a book or sign up for the email list or something, you get in the raffle and you could win this at the convention. Just, anything like that. There's lots of ways to market it to get people there and involved,
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, we have a couple of guys that are around here that I've started to meet and get along with, and they're doing like library events and everything, trying to build something. But that's the most that I've done so far. So.
Yeah. I would say find your local LCS that's the coolest, and just the one that has the coolest owners usually has the coolest customers.
if they're cool, they like their Then that's,
So,
the guy like, get out of my shop.
yeah, so like find the coolest owners, and I bet you could get help you a little bit at least, and maybe they know an owner in another place, and they maybe show your book around to someone, or there's
sure, cool.
All right. Anything else for Sean? Anybody have any other good ideas? Come on, JD. You've been at this a little longer.
I'm trying to consider what else you could do as far as the LCSs. I mean, like I said, you obviously the thing I said earlier about calling them. Yeah, man, I'm spent with that one.
I mean, the other, I guess, route is like not so much doing it yourself, but like there's also a consideration for joining up with another publisher that's already established in the direct market and who's in Diamond or whatever. Kind of like what Tom Hutchison does with Antarctic Press. He does, his Critter book has been around forever. And it's even been in different publishers. He published it himself. He put it in Aspen, and now it's in Antarctic Press.
Right.
So that's another route. Source Point. I think they do only graphic novels now, but I mean that's another. Once you get it all collected into an edition, that's one way to do it. So considering, I guess you kind of want to think about what you want to do too. Is do you want to stay just yourself, putting it out yourself, or in distributing yourself? Or do you want to eventually have enough issues that once you have a finished story, take it and go to one of these other larger indie publishers and let them use their connections?
Yeah, so I'm willing to do pretty much anything. So just make sure it gets out there is what I want.
Don't say that. You'll be washing people's cars.
That's true.
There's this island in the Caribbean. I don't know if you've heard of it, but yeah.
Yeah, but but I have reached out to like publishers. I have talked to a couple editors in different companies, and it's gotten that far, but nothing further. No contracts or anything like that.
Yeah, I think they're waiting mostly for a finished story arc.
Yeah. And I'll have the fourth issue will be the finale of the first arc. So I plan on doing 12 issues altogether. It's all outlined, but hopefully in February we'll do the fourth issue, and then we're going to trade after that. So I'm hoping that'll be helpful in that side of things.
Nice. Oh. That's definitely a good plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, Sean, how fast do you turn over these? You're using Kickstarter for every issue?
Yeah.
So pretty much as soon as one ends, you start in the next campaign then?
Yeah, so I've already written, the first 5 issues really, but I can't afford to do the next issue until Kickstarter finishes. So as soon as I get the funds from the Kickstarter, I've already finished the previous. So like the first issue was already done before I went to Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. So I funded that myself, and then I'm trying to use the Kickstarter money for the next issue.
Just one ahead on it. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. And are you writing and drawing it then?
No, I wish I was drawing. No, okay. I got David Dia and a whole team of people doing the comic, but I'm the writer. So
but I think all of us in that boat. We're the writers paying the artists.
Yeah, that's just it. It's interesting to hear someone's like, oh, we immediately just start the next one to go to the next issue, which is great because some people have big gaps in between, so it's I love hearing.
I think that too, but then it depends on your comfort and how you're set up too. Like for me, I like one a quarter, so one every 3 months for me is comfortable, and because I have 2 art teams that I'm waiting on. Yeah. So I'm rotating between 2 titles, and then I'm also doing a kid's book and plush toys. So like I'm just kind of rotating those all around, and whatever comes, somebody has something first. Like, we just finished like volume 2 for Nightwolf, which collects 5 through 8. Now I'm coming back in October with issue 9, but I'm like at this point, issue 10 has the potential of being done before Snowpaw 4. So like whatever gets done first, I'm like, all right, let's go there. And
Nice.
JD, I mean, he's throwing mice out the window every 5 seconds.
Yeah, I run a campaign probably every 4 to 6 weeks.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I got one running now, and as soon as that one's done, I'll have another one up. So
Nice.
yeah, it's a little weird.
Especially like when you have a different IP that you're promoting. You're used to talking to Oswald, and then you're like, I got this one. Now I got this one.
Yeah, because now it's Dreamweavers, Magi's Grace. Yeah, it's getting a little crazy. You know, so hey, yeah.
Part of the hustle.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So let's. I guess if we don't have any more local comic book talk, let's talk. Chris, what do you got for us, sir?
Okay, so mine is, I guess I have 2 questions. My first question is, what is best in life?
What is best in life?
Yes. Do you want me to pull up the quote from Conan? Because that's what's best in life.
All right, and then my other question. So it's more around like the indie comics career. I'm kind of at a crossroads of what I want to do next, and I just want to talk through it and see what advice everybody has. Mm-hmm. So I've been focusing for the last few years on my Mandrill PI series, which for those of you who don't know is it's a hard-boiled urban fantasy set in a cartoon world. We've got a primate private detective who solves paranormal and occult mysteries. So it's kind of like Hellboy meets Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So I produce comics and prose novels in the series. It's been successful on Kickstarter, but like no matter the campaign, it feels like it often caps around like 5K on average. So sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. I'm currently kickstarting the trade right now, and I want to see how that nets out. But where I'm coming from is like I really love the series and I love the world, and I'm going to be continuing it as an ongoing. But like with that cap around 5K, what I'm trying to figure out is where I should focus some of my creative output and time. And I'm wondering, like, should I assume that kind of cap comes because this is a genre issue? It's a subgenre of a subgenre. So it's a hard-boiled urban fantasy with anthropomorphic cartoon characters. So 2 genres that aren't like the biggest genres on Kickstarter. Yeah, so anyway. So I've got a spin-off idea for another character in the world that shows up in the novels in order to build out this world more in comics. And so that's a route I can take, or I can focus instead on some other series that are in other genres. Like I've got a space western that I'm scripting out. I've got a comedic sci-fi that I'm scripting out, an ancient historical fiction, and a more traditional urban fantasy. And so really my question boils down to like where I should really focus my efforts, like continuing to build up the world of Mandrill PI with spinoffs while continuing that ongoing series, or expand into other genres with other new series that don't have a following yet, but are not in the Mandrill PI universe.
Okay. So who has any questions for Chris?
I got a few. First of all, Chris, my first question would be how deep is your insanity?
Well, he's making comics, so
how deep is your insanity? So the reason I asked that is because, you know, right, like Oswald, right, we run across this thing where, you know, there's so much that we can do with that genre, because there's only but so many, because we're not selling Cthulhu and we're not selling boobs, and there you go. So, or at least I'm not selling boobs on those campaigns. But you know, we're not catering to those things. So, and the question actually is what is your desire, right? Is Mandrill PI the project that you have this super crazy arc that you really want to pursue, right? Or is it something that you can cap off and say, okay, I can chill out with that. chill out with that, and then maybe move on to something else and be good with it. You understand? And be able to work on something else for a while, right? So I mean, that's my question is because if it's like that, like if it's your project that's like Cerebus for Dave Sim, right? That's going to be all consuming for you, right? And it's going to be difficult for you to walk away, right? Because I have that problem with Oswald. I just can't walk away, right? So,
Yeah.
That's, I think, the thing that maybe you have to navigate through. And I mean, it's obviously a question for you to answer.
Yeah. So I think for me, it's a series that I don't want to walk away from, but also it's one of those things where I'm the author, so like the writer. So obviously, because I'm not drawing it takes me a lot less time to do an issue than it does my artist. And so it's like, where do I want to spend the other time that I have? Because I've already written the 3 novels in the series, well, really 4 if you count the novella. So that covers like Mandrill PI's entire arc from starting out as his low point and then through his redemption story where he kind of finds himself and gets over some of the grief of the loss that he's had in his past. And so if I didn't have those prose novels, then it would probably, like, the obsession would probably be higher because I would need to continue pushing to get the story told. But because I have those, now I can kind of take my time a little bit more with telling it in comic form. So I'm going to be doing a few 4-issue story arcs that are completely new stories before I start adapting some of the novels to turn into comic form. But like I said, there are some characters that show up in the novels that seem to be pretty popular with Mandrill PI fans that can continue building out the story in the world that might be interesting. It's just a matter of, with like a super busy day job, I don't have infinite time. So it's like picking and choosing where I want to focus efforts. And I think definitely with the Mandrill PI ongoing, but JD, with your experience also doing anthropomorphic comics, it's kind of like, what do you kind of see as the cap there compared to some of these other genres that you delve into?
Yeah, I mean, because see, the problem is that we have to look at the people who've really done it, right? Who've been at the top of the heap, right? So, all right, I took a deep breath for a reason. Teenage Ninja Turtles, okay? Let's please just shove that to the side. That's like, like nobody.
One in the million.
Right. Like Polito's not there. Like Todd McFarlane is not there. So I mean, it's just like we can push them to the side. But we still have Usagi Yojimbo, right? Who's very popular, very successful. And then the other one would be Mouse Guard by David Peterson, right? But with Mouse Guard, without David there, I mean, it doesn't have as much momentum. You know what I mean? Like he has to constantly, push it really hard himself. So I mean, those are the ones that I really see that have like really like kind of made it in that sphere. There are other ones, but we are kind of capped off, and I just think it's Kickstarter, right? Because I want to move Oswald into the direct market and see how it does there, right? The other thing is to try to maybe get it into some other places and see how they do there. Because here's the thing, we're selling to very small markets. You might want to consider to maybe shop it around to Abrams, find an agent and, maybe shop it around to Abrams or one of these larger, New York publishers who might be able to push it out. Like, if you can get it in the hands of Scholastic, you never know, because Bone.
I'm not sure his series will make it with Scholastic.
Oh, I don't know. I ordered the trade, so I couldn't tell you. I'm just like, but I'm just, but there are other publishers. You understand that maybe it's more YA rather than, than younger, right? So maybe it's a little bit older, but they have those margins, you know what I mean? They have those other age groups that they might be able to sell it to, or be able to market it to those other groups. So yeah, I mean, those are the things that I would say you might want to look into, whether or not that'll fit with the book or not. I don't know. That's that's entirely up to you, and
Did you find when you jumped back and forth to other series that your Oswald audience followed you to the other series, or was it a completely new audience that you had to build?
Good question. All right, so Daphne and I, we do 3 fantasy books between the two of us, right?
Yep.
We do Oswald, which is my book. She does Ego Raven, which is her book, and then we do Tall Tales, which is our book. Okay, and we've noticed, if you put the little charts together, little pie charts together, the crossover is only about 8%, and they're all fantasy, and they're all like high fantasy, meaning it's all for batshit crazy people. So, so yeah, it just depends. But yeah, if you're gonna move around, you are gonna be like fracturing your fan base, because I've seen other creators do that and have an issue, especially when they move away.
And this is kind of what I was saying to Deece, like about having his audience already. He wants to make sure that he keeps that main one intact by segmenting out. For like with I was kind of in a similar boat with having the 2 different titles. I decided I wanted to have I was thinking what was I going to do with my next title once I got Nightwolf standing on its own paws. What was I going to do next? So I polled my audience. I had 3 titles that I've been wanting to work on for years, the same with Nightwolf, but I put in Snowpaw as my own kind of like, I want to see how this goes, because I loved her as a character and I know other people loved her. So when I polled my audience, I put her in there, even though she wasn't planned to be a spinoff.
Yes.
Thinking that people would probably gravitate towards her. And that's how Snowpaw came to be, was, that my audience majority wanted her as my next title. So, again, that was a little bias on my part by putting her in there. But still, it's kind of like to what you want. And then when, and as JD was saying with him and Daphne's audience, it's so art is going to be a big thing. So like, obviously I'm the same writer, right? My audience split is 50-50. I have 50 of my audience who will not go to one or the other, and 50 will do both. And I polled my audience and I asked them, why did you back this one but not this one, or did you back both? Kind of situation. And a lot of people, it came down to the different art styles. Some people love Carlos's dark urban fantasy art. Some people really love Mog's fantasy art. Others hate, they're opposed, like they're just opposed to both of them, so it's kind of like that. You got to consider that too. If you're going to do a whole new IP, you're basically going to be starting from scratch. Keep that in mind. Unless it's a spinoff, then the spinoff is probably going to get a minimal number to maybe half of your audience.
Okay. But I mean, you will get some people, because we do have people that back everything that Daphne and I do. Like they're just
your diehards. They're the people who are coming back for you.
So and like I said, I mean, I'm running. There's a huge difference between, let's say, the Oswald Chronicles and let's say Magi's Grace, right? Which is, I have my mice, and then I have, huge hulking monster hunter with gun and his sorceress partner, right? So it's with naughty covers. So it huge difference. And it's also why I have 2 separate companies for them. I like Oswald Chronicles comes out of Dreamweaver Press, and Magi's Grace and Dreamweavers come out of Angel Wing Productions. So I have and then I have an umbrella company, but that's a whole nother thing. But but yeah, you had I for myself, for my sanity, and just to be able to let my fans know, I keep them separate. So then people will know, say, okay, Oswald is this, and these other things are this, and you may want to consider that, but I don't know how far apart your items are going to be, your creations.
So we kind of like steered away from the questions. Before we continue on, is there any, Deece or Sean, do you either of you have any kind of questions for Chris to continue on with this. I mean, it's kind of straightforward, but I'm sure there's stuff we can pull out of him.
Yeah. I guess going off of what y'all were asking, so you said it was a space western was one of the other possible books?
Yeah.
So like Rob was saying about the art styles, would it be the same kind of like the same artist or same art style, or would it be completely different, or?
So it would likely be completely different depending on genre, because my artist from Mandrill PI, like I want him to keep working on the ongoing there, because he's the, you know, I feel like he is the perfect artist for that, and I think he would do a really good job with something called like a space western, but I want his focus to remain there. And so I would investigate other artists that might work well for that genre.
But like a totally different type of art, like not the same cartoony type. Yeah.
Exactly.
Another thing too, other question was with the space western, how many issues do you see that? Like you said, Mandrill PI would be your ongoing. Would it be like just a 4-issue miniseries, or what would the new?
I'm envisioning that one being between 4 and 12 issues. The sci-fi adventure would be an ongoing, and the historical fiction set in the ancient world would be about 60 issues. That's where I would cap that if I ever got that one off the ground.
Gotcha.
So the insanity does run deep in you. I'm so proud.
Unfortunately.
Deece, do you have any questions?
I don't know if I have questions.
But if we don't, I mean, we can just continue on with the conversation.
Yeah, I guess I would. Not really question so much as the. I mean, I guess it's kind of a question to lead into what I'm thinking here. But like when you think about it, you want to do this ongoing Mandrill ongoing, but you also want to do something else. Like where creatively in all the projects I've done over the years, I think that if my mind is wandering towards something else, maybe it's maybe your brain just telling you need like a break, from Mandrill, which could give you like a perspective shift, like it sometimes it's that little break that gets you back on track with the other thing. But have have you thought about if you do this other, let's say the space western, you already have a lot of product in Mandrill, offering issue number 1 as an incentive on the Kickstarter to try to get some of that crossover and get people who purchase this new book be like, hey, this is also another thing I do. It's a low cost reward to give people because you already have the product. It's not anything you have to create again.
Yeah, like it would definitely be something I would offer. I think it's just a matter of like, would the audience that's seeking a space western then end up wanting to grab that? So like with Mandrill, and part of the reason why I'm so passionate about it too, especially like through the series of prose novels as well, where I was able to finish the arc. So a lot of my emotion for that storyline came from. So my parents died over the course of the 2010s. And to me, I went through a lot of like grief and depression over that. And for Mandrill PI, he starts in this place where he's really down. And then over the course of the 3 novels, he learns to rely on his friends a lot more. And then ultimately in the last novel, like finishes his redemptive arc. And so that's where like there is an end point to that storyline, and the end point is what happens in the novels. But do I have to get there immediately in the comics? No. Like now that I've been able to get that out and express that through my writing, I'm fine with the comic ongoing meandering a little bit and exploring other elements of the world before it gets back to that main storyline that happens in the prose novels and the ending of it. Some of the other ones series that I'm interested in exploring, like the space western, is really a story about like a father's love for his son and what he will do for that son, because his who raises space slugs, and the sheriff and the moon gets sold to a corporation, and then the sheriff comes in and does some murdering of his family, and then it's the space western revenge story. And then the comedic science fiction series is more of just a fun outlet for just doing insane, ridiculous stuff through the focus of time travel.
Yeah.
And then the historical fiction is one that has always been kind of at the back of my mind. It's one that I, back in the 2010s, before all that stuff happened with my parents, that I stepped away from writing because I had this big writer's block where I couldn't write for over half a decade. I had an artist for that, but then he produced 2 issues, but then he lived in Indonesia and there was a natural disaster, and I think something happened with him. I've always been trying to reach back out to him and find him, but I haven't been able to. But I've got like 2 issues in the bag of that one. The script I think could use some work because I wrote that one a long time ago, but the historical fiction I've got a lot of passion for because one of my majors in college was classics, so I focused on ancient Greek, and there's this really cool Greece, and there's this really cool time period that I think would be really interesting to people. But I think a couple of those other series have potential as being something that might move the needle a little bit more on something like Kickstarter. So it's all things that I'm passionate about, and it's just sort of at a crossroads of where I want to focus my creativity.
Yeah, I would think now maybe this is like my hubris, but this doesn't always, cross over into every industry. But I mean, a lot of times I think it's like, I would say, you're not just selling a book to these people. You should be selling you to these people also, as a creator. You're not only your thoughts and ideas on the page, but who you are personally, your passion for the industry, your passion for your work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's plenty of writers that I love that write a myriad of things, and I'll just read everything they write. It doesn't have to be, I mean, my personal preferred genre is probably like crime noir. But if you write something else that's crazy, like I'm there for it. I'll check it out. So if you've already got people sold on one thing, they have in a sense invested in you, whether they don't know you yet, but they're going to get to know you. And at that point you have the ability to be like, hey, also this thing, and this is another thing I created. And you can even put it's very different, but it's it comes from the same place. And again, I think there's a lot of the things I keep seeing on Kickstarter when I look at campaigns, especially the ones I see not making it, is like I don't see any, when I read them, I don't read anything about like I don't connect with these creators at all.
There's no why. There's no personality. Yeah.
Yeah, and like for me, I think that's a big part of it is understanding who this person is and why they're doing this, their love for it, their passion for it. Because I mean, none of us have lucrative deals. We're all trying to get other people to help support our campaigns. So we've got to get people to like us, but we also want to help support people who are truly doing it, that would be doing it whether they had zero money, and when you feel that come through, that makes a big difference. So I don't know. I mean, I get it's hard. You're going to, like JD said, only 8% of his audience crosses over. But I would say don't underestimate your audience either. Be willing to offer them something else that may be different and out of their wheelhouse. Again, especially since it's something you've already created and can offer to them at a low cost to you, and that may get them over to your other book, and then next thing you know, you got someone buying 2 books from you.
So another question for the your spinoff, if you will, or your multiple spinoffs, this kind of goes back to the artist situation. Do you still want your main artist to focus on Mandrill while somebody else takes a stab at this world, or do you kind of want to keep that cohesive? Because I think that kind of also helps to kind of keep you, if you want to keep your artist busy, that might make you want to then spread out to another of your IPs that you want to start.
Yeah, if I ended up doing the spinoffs, it would be for people familiar with that have read the novels. There's a Catfish, who is a detective on the homicide unit, who is one of the other popular characters in the series that I would focus on for that spinoff. And I would look for another artist who can do a cartoony style, but maybe it's more influenced by a different, maybe like it's less of like a Looney Tunes influence and more of like a Hanna-Barbera influence. So like it would still fall within that overall like cartoon genre, since that's the setting of the world, but like somebody who brings a different style to it, so it wouldn't be confused with Carlos.
Okay. So I think something that might help you to bring more people from your current audience over is to ask them what you know, kind of like what I did with Snowpaw. I mean, obviously, like I said, it's probably going to be a little more biased and leaning towards your spinoff. But if they do want to hear something different from you, like I guess it's going to depend on your pitches. You want to make these pitches all home runs, right? As best you can. So like when you're pitching it to them and they put the vote in, it's that you've done your best and unbiased, to put out to them to say, hey, this is what we really want. That's that too is like, but you also have to take that into consideration, how when you read the results, what are your feelings? Like for me, again, I was a little biased with Snowpaw. I was happy that was the result. I kind of figured it would have been, but I was like, I kind of did that on purpose, whereas like you are confused. So when you see what the results are and you're like, if you feel, you know what I mean? Then that gives you the answer. Okay, this is not the one you want to do. You know what I mean? Because they don't need to know the exact winning results. All you could say is basically, okay, the tallies are in. This is the winner, whether it's the one you pick or not.
Yeah. That's fair. But I come from a completely different mindset. I do whatever I want to do.
There's that too. I mean, the problem is he doesn't know what he wants to do.
Right. But I'm just thinking,
I just don't have the time to do them all.
Right. I would say if you're going to leave it to the audience, definitely leave it to the audience. But I would say really look at the projects and pick the one you really want to do. Like the one that if you are working on something else, you're going to miss working on that one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So pick the one that you really, really want to focus on. That's what I would do. Or pick the one that you can finish the quickest and then move on to something else. Because so at least you get that one out of the way, and then you can, focus on something else that might take
wrap it up into a graphic novel, and then you have something else to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
And think about it this way too. What's that?
I said then that one would probably be the space western, but that's a good way to think about it.
There you go. Another way to look at it too is look at Robert Kirkman. He's known for what? Walking Dead and Impossible, right? But he's done how many different titles?
Battle Pope.
Yeah, right. Battle Pope with the Astonishing Werewolf or Wolfman or whatever. He's done a bunch of different books that took forever before he got these two, right? And even Impossible was a good run for him, but it did not have the same hit as Walking Dead. Yeah. But he put his fist to the grind and just kept going and going and going and going. I mean, he was living in a basement, putting out stuff until he finally hit one. You know what I mean? Like he was just, throwing shit at the wall and seeing what stuck. Yeah. So that's kind of like, is that what you want to find the big hit? Or are you doing this because you want to do stuff that you feel passionate about? And when you're doing the passion, which is the one that you're going to, just that's where you want to live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And something else, because going back to your original statement where you were talking about, where you wanted to go with as far as your career and your writing and all that stuff. I mean, are you interested? Are you looking to ever like move into a position where we were talking about with Sean, where maybe you want to go to find a publisher to get your, to put them out to a broader market? And that's something, and on top of that, is it something like do you just want to do your own work, or are you looking to become like do you want to start working on other people's IPs? Do you want to go work over at Marvel or DC doing Spider-Man or whatever? You understand? Because I know people who want to do that stuff, and then the way to that path can be very crazy. So it's because somebody like Cullen Bunn, he did it one way, right, where he wrote a bunch of different books and released them to various companies and managed to get himself, where enough people were seeing him, he was able to get in, right? Sometimes it's just knowing the right person,
Yeah.
Sometimes that's, you buy the right person, the right drink on the right day, and you're like, yeah, let me hear your pitch, sure, or, I'll give you a job on it,
Yeah.
So it just depends what you're looking for to do with your career, it's just, is that something you're interested in, or you just want to just do what you're doing. So.
Yeah, I'm more interested in working on my own IPs, but like I would be open to those own IPs being published by other companies. I haven't ever, at least since I've been an adult, like haven't really dreamed of writing for like a Marvel or DC character. Like that's not that I wouldn't be open to it, like if the opportunity was dropped in my lap, but
that's not the career path you were looking to.
Yeah, exactly. Like if the opportunity came up, I would probably see it more as like a really, really cool opportunity that I would put my all into, but I would also see it as a stepping stone toward continuing to build own IP, like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think like that's another thing you want to consider too, if you are open to the publishing with other companies your IP and then distributing on a wider basis, having a completed having completed editions and story arcs. So like with your graphic novel now, you could either take that to like Source Point or to the separate issues to Antarctic Press or whoever else.
Red 5. There's a bunch of them. So yeah, Mad Cave. So.
Yeah. So I mean that's those are all ways to go, but again, thinking about, okay, well, what's the next one? Is this continuing on? Do I want to make sure that I get this next round in there, or these next characters that are related to it in there, or just like the short one, have that, boom, one and done, put that out there. These are all things to consider.
Yeah. All right.
Does anybody else have anything for Chris on this?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was getting at with how many issues the other stories would be and my thought would be, if you have another story, to start a new audience, to try to bring them also over to Mandrill PI, is doing the short trade. And then you also have that on the cons, an easy trade to sell as well in a different genre.
Yeah, I think diversity in the portfolio is good too, to show not only to your readers but also to potential publishers. It makes a big difference in, if you can have this wide breadth of work that you can work under, and tonally you get that little bit of you shines through, but also there's still enough difference where you're doing well in these different genres. That I think that's a huge win to be able to see creators do that. And I think, yeah, if you ever want to be picked up by a publisher, I think they look at stuff like that too. Because, we all know there's some published, like small press publishers that only do certain types of books. So, they may not pick up Mandrill PI, but they may pick up a space Western, Yeah. And then once you have a book under a label, it's easier to get the next one under a label, whether it's that same label or a different one, and so on and so on,
Mm.
All right. If nobody else has anything else, shall we wrap this?
Well,
we still got some time. We could keep talking if anybody else has anything else.
Well, I do have a question.
Okay.
I have a question. All right.
You have a question.
So, yeah, I know this is weird, right? I'm on the show. So here's something. So for those of you who know me, I've already said I put out a bunch of Kickstarters. I tend to put out 2 books per campaign, sometimes 3. all at the same time, right? Unless it's a trade, then obviously they're singles. Usually I'm doing an issue 1 and 2, 3 and 4, so I'm usually pairing them up.
That for
Now,
Oswald specifically.
For Oswald, yes, specifically for
Yeah,
Oswald.
because I was going to say you haven't been doing that for the other two.
No, not the other two. No, those are special cases. But with Oswald, I'm moving into. I've had a very specific business model. The business model is that I would produce the books in black and white, then produce a trade in black and white, then produce the books again in color, and then produce a color trade, right? Now, I'm wondering, should I release the color books as single campaigns, or should I continue with 2 books per campaign? Well, I'm just looking for everybody's thoughts.
Okay, so I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, are these? So they both colored? So if you're doing 2 per campaign, are they both colored and done, or are you, or are they? So they're both done before the campaign.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't ever put out a campaign without the book being done.
Okay.
So it sounds like you've been doing them 2 at a time for a while. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
And you've had success with that.
If you want to call it that, sure.
Well, success to where they keep going. They're working. They're coming out. You know.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
My artists are being fed, so they're happy.
Okay, there you go. I guess. I mean, if it's working, you know, that's it's hard to argue with that. But also, is your thought? You think you could have more if you broke? Here's what I would say from a marketing standpoint. I think, you know, you might be shooting yourself in the foot because you're almost offering too much. Like, you know, because those same people would probably donate to 1 book the same they would donate to 2. So you could be doubling your money if you split those up. And then also, you know, you're probably taking a little bit of workload and front loading of money, capital put into and investing into these books since you're, you know, getting them done ahead of time, right? So if you only have to do 1 at a time and they're essentially just now Lego blocking paying for themselves, yeah, you might. If I think you'd probably get just as much success with 1 as you would with 2. They're really buying into the idea more than the book, essentially. So yeah, you might be giving them a BOGO for no reason.
Yeah, the one thing that Tyler James at Comics Launches always preached was to do separate, because he feels that because you're going to do more. Separating each campaign is going to do roughly, you know, more, because then, you know, then you have more the next time, and then especially with you're able to turn around a lot faster and put out the next one.
Believe it or not, it's just I have a lot of stock. I backload. I wrote out, I think, the next almost year and a half, 2 years of campaigns. Like,
which is a unique thing to have for sure. But I think, you know, aside from, you know, the making more per campaign, I think partly like and I think like this is why your campaigns haven't been like, you know, they've kind of like stayed, you know, right. So like if you had, like, for people like me, I'm more like I'm going for a colored one. From, you know, I just don't care for black and white. That's just me. That's not my preference. So I'm going to wait for either, you know, the singles of the colored or the collected edition of the colored. Right. And I think there's people who do that. There's going to be the people who are just going to get everything because, you know, they have that collector's mentality, or they just really like you. And then there's people who are just like, oh, I only like the black and white, or I already have the black and white. I'm not going for this color, you know? And I think that's like, for a while, like before I got to know you better and seeing like how you did your campaigns, they confused the shit out of me. Cause I'm like, wait, didn't he do this already? And I think that you might have a similar issue with other people. If I'm confused and I run Kickstarters, the people who don't run Kickstarters are going to be confused.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. That you got to understand. I plan to live longer by laughing, so confusing people kind of does that for me.
Fair enough.
So yeah. So I don't know. Does anybody else have any thoughts on it? I don't know. So.
I just had a question. With the ones that are black and white and then the ones that are colored, do you have a lot of crossover between they're getting everything, or is it more like 50-50? They're waiting for one or the other, or?
Well, I just started. So I did one Goofy campaign where it did okay, and it did about the same numbers that the black and white ones do. But my whole thing is look, I break it down to like an apple, right? You want to get as many bites out of that apple as you can get, because the thing is as indie creators, like we're going to have so many cycles that we're going to be able to run through this, right? So, with, Chris, with your book, right, you've run the cycle, right? You release the single issues and then you got the trade, and that cycle is done. Now you can move it into a new space where you can put it in comic shops and go that route, right? So that's a new space. But as far as Kickstarter is concerned, unless we start doing like Indiegogos and these other platforms, right? We only have so much of that available to us, right? So my idea was like, okay, I'll do this like this first. I'll generate this capital, keep the project going, and then also, move some of that capital to getting it colored like later. And that's basically now I'm in a position where I'm like, oh, now I got a lot of color stuff sitting in the background, so now I can start putting it out. So the question is like, and we all know how expensive it is, right? So and I mean, so I'm like, yeah. So yeah, and the other portion of this is like my next campaign is going to be 16 days. So it's like yeah, because for the color ones, I'm figuring if I'm going to do a single book, it'll probably be a much more constricted, shorter campaign.
I think too, you've only done what you've done soft covers, right? You haven't done like hard covers.
No, I haven't done a hard cover.
So that's enough. Like, so even if you decided like, okay, well, I'm going to stop doing the black and white unless people really want them, you could do the singles and do the collected, kind of like similar, like what I do with like Nightwolf.
Right.
This is the proof for number 2, by the way.
Nice.
But yeah, so like, volume 1 and 2, for me, I have the hardcover. So when I get 3, I'm going to have like, this is all connecting. So like the battle scene here, like underneath the die cuts, that's all connecting. And then I'm going to get a slipcase. Boom. So volume 3, slipcase, all that. So that's one thing. My next thing for that, so I got the soft covers, I got the hard covers. Then I'm going to do an omnibus. So get all 12 issues in one giant book.
Yep.
So like it's the same idea. There's more ways to do it.
Yep.
And to kind of just keep putting it out in different ways. Kind of like Marvel kept doing with the Essentials, or rehashing like this is the golden years or the silver age, like how they do theirs all the time.
Yeah, I always say Wendy and Richard Pini from ElfQuest are they're my champions. They're like
your model.
Yes, because they've been putting out ElfQuest forever. I mean, and it's come out in almost every damn size, shape.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been like large, small, regular format.
Yeah, they've done manga, 6x9, standard comic, omnibus, single trade paperback, single issue comics, magazine size comics, regular size comics, in color, black and white, you name it, they've done it. So yeah, and God bless them. So, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, has anybody else got anything else? Because yeah, I don't know. But yeah, all right. So I guess we're done. But thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. So so let's start with Sean, please. We're at the hour and a half mark. So where can we find you in your work, sir?
Yep. So the Fog Within issues 1 through 3 is on Kickstarter till September 20th, I think it is, at 9 p.m. And yeah, I'll be there. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, somewhat TikTok, all under Sean Wood _writer. If you want to hit me up and talk about anything, I'm willing to talk about my comic or anything else.
All right, cool. Chris?
Yeah, so Mandrill PI, the trade collection, is live on Kickstarter until September 14th. You can also find me at cbrimmage.com or on Instagram and Facebook as Chris Brimmage, author _ between each word. And then TikTok, it's the opposite, author Chris Brimmage _ between each word.
All right, cool. Deece?
I just want to say, Sean, I knew I could recognize that title. I've been looking at that Fog Within on Kickstarter a lot recently. The art looks dope. It looks cool.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. It looks like you're nailing it with the funds too. It looks good. Yeah, that's one of the ones I keep eyeballing. So congrats.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, guys, my book is called Kill Stan. It'll be live on Kickstarter on September 15th, running through October 10th. So please support. You can follow the pre-launch page now. Just look up Kill Stan on Kickstarter. You can follow me at inferno.earth on Instagram, Facebook, and that's our website, inferno.earth. There's no .com anymore. That doesn't exist, I guess. It's just inferno.earth is the website. So yeah, give it a whirl. Follow us. Even just following us on social media helps a lot. Getting into conventions and stuff, they look at your socials. They want to see what you're doing. So just give us a follow at least. All that stuff helps with the algorithm gods and all that. It is neo-noir crime thriller. It's really great. We've had a lot of good feedback on the people who've read it so far. So check it out. And also, I do stand-up comedy for a living. So if you want to follow me in my comedy career, Deece.comedy on Instagram, or Deece Comedy is my website. I've got a special on my website for sale right now. It is donation, whatever you want to pay, name the price. So you can pay $10, $20. You can even pay $1. It's a dick move, but you'll still get the whole special. And you can get my tour dates. I'll be across the country, somewhere near your face. So buy a ticket and put your face near my face.
All right. Do you want to go, or do you want me to go first?
No, you got it.
Okay. So I'm Raw Multari. You can find me at Lone Wolf Comics. You can also find me at Raw Multari on Facebook, X, and Instagram. The pre-order is still up for this pretty girl here. It's coming out in November, and you go to nightwolf.com or nightwolf.lonewolfcomics.com. That'll take you to the backer kit pre-order. And we are launching for Nightwolf issue 9 this October, so stay tuned for that.
Very nice. All right, and I'm JD Calderon, and you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, all those different places under JD Calderon, theoswaldchronicles.com, talltalesonline.com, and currently on Kickstarter with Dreamweavers in full color. So go check that out. So, and then also everybody, just remember, all of these creators are really awesome. All of them are doing great work. In the show notes, I put in links to all of their campaigns. So go click on those links and go buy those books, because these creators deserve your support, right? All of them are great. These are all great books they're putting out. So thank you so much, everybody. And just remember, read more indie comics, especially ours. Have a good night.